Truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most...
And this is Because Liberty with Curtis Hart, and you are going to be listening to an older episode from when I was still inside Chris's garage, and we were talking to Steven Nielson, the then chairperson of the Washington State Libertarian Party, and we were talking about refugees and roads. So we'll go ahead and listen to that now. So, Steven, what do you think about the refugee situation?
Well, I think it's quite interesting how, first of all, everyone's talking about it, which is great because I don't have to listen to anybody talk about the damn Starbucks cup anymore. So let's just get that out of the way. People are finally talking about something that matters. What's interesting, and I made a public statement about this yesterday, is that in a nation, a conservative nation, a Christian nation, we don't seem to be acting very Christianly in that we should have a general spirit of goodwill towards individuals, but the conservative bias, if you will, is that it's open season on any Muslims, and we should be shooting these people if they come into our neighborhood. I have a problem with that. That's not the kind of country I want to live in. So first and foremost, when it comes to refugees, whether they're from Vietnam, Syria, Germany, Russia, we need to treat people like people, and that's one thing that we've stopped doing here in America.
That's absolutely.
I think a lot of people don't disagree with what you're saying. They just want it done in a responsible and a safe manner for the people who are already within the United States. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Right now, there's real serious questions on how these people are being vetted before they come into a nation that's hostile against us at this time. So I kind of understand some arguments. I don't agree with, that we should be shooting people who come across the borders if they're just because they're Syrian refugees. But I haven't seen a whole lot of that talk. But I have seen a lot of people say that they would like at least a pause until we can get a better understanding of who's coming in.
Well, I don't think that the Syrian government is being hostile towards the United States. I believe that's ISIS.
A lot of people.
And the refugees are from Syria.
A lot of people in that region are hostile against the United States.
They don't like us because we fuck with everybody.
That's right, and that's why I'm saying that people are hostile against us. There's serious, credible threat to some of these people that could be posing as refugees coming in, and I think people just want assurances that these people are being checked out safely. I mean,
but they have to understand that we don't even have assurances that our neighbor in our own neighborhood, born, raised, blue-blooded, red-blooded American, isn't going to build a bomb in his shed and blow up the local diner. We don't have those assurances. We have to have faith in our fellow man that they're going to do good. Now, some can say that, Muslim extremists are going to do bad things. Well, there are extremists already in America, whether they're lone wolves, whether they are, right-wing radicals or left-wing radicals, these groups that used to go, eco-terrorists, several years back was the big thing. There's never going to be an assurance. There's never going to be that assurance, and you can never have that assurance unless you're living under extreme authoritarian statist control.
Thank you.
So that you're just never, ever going to have total security in a free nation. You have to have faith in your fellow man.
That is such a perfect statement right there. Like, I couldn't have said it better myself. Literally, I'm not very good at words. So
we just let everybody come in, or I mean,
Should we let everybody come into America?
Yeah, I mean, just...
I am absolutely in favor of open borders around the world. I think that what we have is we have imaginary lines on a map. I think that there is a breakdown in the structure of society in a global market, and it's done so to impact corporatism in this country and throughout the world. And what we see coming home is actually the blowback that we hear, but it's a term that I'm using more and more. It's corporate warfare. We are in this perpetual state of war because it's lucrative. I had worked for almost a decade for the military-industrial complex and worked on military contracts, and I know the amount of money that is made by companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, who built their entire company portfolio based on nation building and defense and setting up all aspects of a government because it's lucrative. They get a lot of money. There's a lot of money in corporate warfare. So there are people who are benefiting from this, and it is that corporate element. The people who are not benefiting is the men, women, and children who are left trying to scrape by a life. So when we bomb the crap out of their homes, what are they to do with their families? And yeah, they're going to be pissed, and they're going to want revenge. But you know what? If they come here, or if they come anywhere in the world, and they see that it's not like that the normal average person isn't like that, then you have more hope of changing their heart than you do by forcing them to stay underneath the bombs and the guns and the threat of death.
Excellent. I don't even know how to follow that up, really.
So what do we do for these people that need these resurgences? I mean, you've got 32 states now that want to pause or stop this from happening altogether, and that's some people are arguing that's the majority of the states, and the president should do something. What do we do for these people? I mean, because we have to try to satisfy everybody. So how do we?
Right. So we already have a refugee plan, and what happens is they identify based off of whatever system of counting they have, which regions they will allow refugees to come from. And they've allocated actually a lesser amount this year in that 10,000 Syrian refugees number than we did, a few years back. But one way or the other, are we going to stop refugees in general? Are we going to stop America as an asylum, a political asylum country? I don't think that we are. What needs to happen is we need to maintain a vetting process. We need to maintain, checks on folks that are coming in, but allow folks who are requesting political asylum to continue to come to our country. If that is, if that's the will of, our country, the type of country that we want to be, a goodwill nation. Now, the states that are saying that they are not going to allow Syrian refugees, they typically can't do that. The Supreme Court made a ruling some time back that had actually said that Congress sets the rules for immigration and for citizenship, if you will, and for asylum. And once an individual comes into the country, a state cannot deny them food, they cannot deny them work, they cannot deny them housing to violate their natural rights. And that's what this is about. The natural right for a person to live without fear of oppression, death, so on and so forth. We have natural rights. And so the government is actually looking beyond the fear factor, and they are supporting the natural right of these people to seek a peaceful life. Now, is there going to be a bad grape that comes in? There may be, but I have to have hope that that the process that we have for vetting is going to hold that out. And the 32 states can say what they will, but if a state like Washington lets the refugee in, there's nothing that Texas can do to stop them from moving down to Houston.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially once they get here.
Yeah, once they get here, you can't track them after that.
Correct.
I mean, unless you hold them in a prison camp, like
right.
FDR.
And it should also be noted that France is still today allowing Syrian refugees into their country.
Really?
Yeah,
that really should be.
I think they said they're going to take 30,000.
So we're whining about 10.
We're taking more than 10.
And France, who just got the terrorist attack, is taking 30. So
only because they're
that's
going to live up.
interesting. So
listen, the French president said that the only reason why they're doing that is because they're going to live up to what they said. They're going to, live up to their end of what they said
they're going to do. So I have. This is on a totally different subject.
Completely.
This is on a totally different subject since I have Steven on the phone and we don't have that much time with him. A lot of times when I tag Steven into conversations, it has to do with, what are we going to do about the roads? Who would build the roads under your libertarian government? And a lot of times I say if we didn't have government around telling us what we could and couldn't do, we wouldn't even need roads at this point. And then I go ahead and I tag in Steven Nielson because he's basically a rocket scientist. Isn't that what you are?
Yes, I'm a rocket scientist.
It's not like you're like a rocket scientist. You are a rocket scientist. So explain that to the people how that is a true statement.
That's my degree. I'm an astronautical engineer by degree and practicing quality engineer. I've worked on human space flight, nuclear missiles, military satellites. So a little bit of dabbling, a little bit of rocket science from time to time.
So how is it that we wouldn't need roads if government wasn't involved? When I tag you in a conversation, and I do it often, fairly often, say that to the listeners really quick.
I have a question, too.
All right. So to keep it brief and without getting too technical, there are very simple designs for flying vehicles. I actually have designed what I call the Vimana, which is a gyroscope stabilized jet-powered motorcycle that is, would be a couple $100,000 to build and buy, prototype, but the design is sound. There are government regulations that would restrict the fair use of this technology. There are several individuals, that have created fan type hovering helicopters that aren't able to be used. There's regulations on ultralight aircraft that can take off in less than 50 feet of runway. That you can't fly over roadways or over populated areas. So being able to travel from point A to point B via the air is still heavily regulated. They will take your livelihood if you were to violate these air traffic restrictions. That they make it illegal, and not only that, they suppress the technology. If anybody wants to do research the Williams X-Jet, the WASP, the aerial space platform, I think it's called, the Williams X-Jet. You can find it in the 1970s. The government created this technology and research that they classified because the engine was then used for cruise missiles. But we had the technology 40 years ago to fly at 10,000, between 0 and 10,000 feet at 60 miles an hour, single point, just basically riding a jet engine. Not fuel efficient, but the technology exists. And with that kind of technology, you don't need roads.
There you go. There you go, folks. That's why you don't need roads. So that answers the question. Who would build the roads in your libertarian society? We wouldn't need them at this point in human history.
That's a beautiful answer, though, too.
Wasn't that just great?
Yeah, that's great.
How are you going to argue with a rocket scientist? I mean, you better come at me with some higher education than the rocket scientist if I even want to consider your answer to be valid. There you go.
Steven,
and one of the most interesting arguments that I've heard from folks who just are I don't know, they just have statism bred into them. They said, well, what are you going to do when the traffic gets so bad, when you're flying around? I said, go higher.
Or lower.
Or lower. You know?